compatibility with, quote, old stock, unquote, products. Janet photographed the email on my phone screen, then started walking around the house with her tablet camera. She documented every blue inch, the vintage brass mailbox now electric blue, the stained glass window surrounds painted over, the decorative trim work my grandmother had maintained for 40 years, obliterated. Lyle followed her around the porch. What are you doing? Making a record of all unauthorized modifications to my client's property. She didn't look up from her camera. Every violation, every damaged historical feature, every square foot of contaminated surface. I called the city code enforcement office next. My tenant painted my rental property without permission and used hazardous materials. The woman on the phone asked for the address. When I gave it, she made a small noise of recognition. The Blue Victorian on Maple? We've had 3 neighbor complaints already. Someone will be there within 2 hours. Lyle tried to go inside, but I blocked the porch steps. You need to stay out here and talk to code enforcement when they arrive. He pulled out his phone and called someone. Frank, it's getting complicated. You need to come over. I could hear Frank's voice through the speaker telling Lyle to stay calm, that he had rights, that possession was still 9/10 of the law. Mrs. Hendricks shook her head and went back to her garden, but she kept glancing over with obvious interest. Hugo Masterson arrived 90 minutes later in a city vehicle with official logos on the doors. He wore a polo shirt with a code enforcement badge and carried a clipboard thick with forms. He walked the property perimeter first, taking photos from every angle. Then he approached Lyle, who was still on the porch looking increasingly uncomfortable. You're the tenant? Lyle nodded. Hugo made notes. Did you obtain permits for this exterior modification? No, but I don't need permits for my own property. Hugo stopped writing and looked up. This isn't your property according to county records. Did you get written permission from the property owner? Lyle gestured at me. He's right there, and no. Hugo turned to me. Did you authorize this paint job? Absolutely not. Hugo made more notes, then pulled out a testing kit from his vehicle. I need to take paint samples. The county lab will test for lead content and other hazardous materials. He scraped samples from 6 different locations on the house, each one going into a labeled evidence bag. Lyle watched the process with growing dread. The confident grin was completely gone now. Hugo finished his sampling and handed Lyle a violation notice. Unauthorized exterior modifications to a rental property. Failure to obtain required permits. Potential environmental contamination. He handed me a copy too. You'll receive the lab results within 24 to 48 hours. If lead is confirmed, EPA will be notified automatically. After Hugo left, Lyle finally dropped the act. He sat down on the porch steps with his head in his hands. Look, maybe I got some bad advice. Maybe we can work something out. I can repaint it, whatever color you want. Janet stood over him with her tablet. Mr. Wooten, that paint is bonded permanently. Remember? You specifically asked for paint that would be impossible to remove. Tom's notes document that. You can't just repaint over lead-contaminated surfaces. That requires professional hazmat remediation. She pulled up more regulations, and you can't do any remediation work yourself. Federal law requires licensed contractors with EPA certification. Lyle's phone rang. He looked at the screen and didn't answer. It rang again. Finally, he picked up. What? His face changed as he listened. Yeah, I'm still at the house. Why? He stood up fast. The EPA is coming? When? He looked at his phone. Tomorrow morning. They want to inspect the property. Janet smiled. That was faster than I expected. Usually takes 3 to 5 business days. Must be a slow week for environmental crimes. Lyle started pacing the porch. This is insane. I was trying to improve the value. I was making the place nicer. I pointed at the electric blue siding. You think this is nicer? You painted over historical features that took my grandmother years to restore. You used illegal